Round one is in the books, and there's change a coming in Cowtown. Dylan and Chris from the ArmChair GM podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. Let's get into it.
Well, Chris, amidst some of the best hockey I've seen in close to a decade, round one has been pretty fucking awesome, to be honest. The Flames come out with some big news with the arena deal and then with the Sutter firing, and there's just a shit ton to talk about. So let's get into it.
Get into it. Where do we want to start? We want to quickly go through the playoffs and then
Yeah,
get
let's
into
do
the
it.
meat and potatoes of what's happening locally.
Yeah, let's do it.
What a first round it was. There was some incredible games, a lot of overtimes, really close matches. It was really well joined up for all the series. I was really impressed with what was going on everywhere.
And the parody, like that term gets thrown around a ton in hockey these days, but I really thought the parody in these specific playoffs so far has been so good. Like I think the hockey has been the best I've seen since I can't remember exactly which year it was, but there was a Philly and Pittsburgh series. I remember I was in Montreal at the time because I had some family stuff going on, and it was the best hockey I think I've ever seen that series,
Yeah.
and this is the best since then. I think it was like I want to say 2011 or something like that, 2013 maybe.
Yeah, you're right. The early teens, I think there were a
Yeah,
couple of really good rounds back then. Um,
yeah.
and I mean, obviously everybody's bracket is fully intact after what just happened too, right?
It's amazing to me how many people are like, "Oh yeah, I picked Seattle," and "Oh, for sure Boston was going to lose." And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people saying like, "Oh, my bracket is almost perfect," and it's like,
Shit.
was it the sixth bracket you made, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
I made
you're
two
full of
brackets and
shit?
picked a different team each time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you want to kind of break down series by series a little bit, or
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
all right? Well, let's start with the Colorado and Seattle one. Honestly, this is the one I watched the least of because it was the latest one each day, and either I was at work or I had watched hockey all day and I was just getting kind of
Yeah.
tired of it.
Before being said, you said you watched hockey all day. I'm going to give the NHL a lot of credit for how they did the schedule. Doing
Or the
30-minute
staggered starts.
increments like that was brilliant, right? As soon as one period ends, you go to the next game and you go to that period ending and back and forth. It was a lot of fun, and I think it really would have helped with their ratings overall.
I agree. And
Yeah,
honestly, I think we've both talked about this throughout the regular season, this one specifically. And I remember last playoffs were kind of fucked with the start times as well.
hmm
Like it's nice, and I know you know, not everybody wants to watch 4 games a day,
right.
but it's nice for those of us that do, and it's also nice just you know those of us who can break the game down by ourselves. We don't need to watch the intermission show. We've
Right.
had enough of Kelly Rudy all fucking year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
let's
absolutely. And
watch more games instead.
yeah, that's what it's all about. Let's watch more hockey.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then the NHL also gets people switching channels, and then they get more ratings out of it. So
that's right. They get more
it makes
ratings. They
more
get,
sense.
as far as I'm concerned, they get really good advertising with what's going on in the on ice advertisement on boards and things like that. I think I think moving forward, it's for me, it's a no brainer. They have to continue doing it in this way.
As long as they can, and the only thing I will kind of give them a little bit of slack on when it comes to the staggered starts, anyways, is building availability. Sometimes,
Yeah.
depending, like LA has two professional basketball teams and a professional fucking hockey team in the same building. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then concerts and then other things, right? So building availability is one thing, and I get that. But at the same time, as much as you can do it, instead of having 16, or 16 doesn't make sense, but instead of having 10 6 o'clock starts, one 4 o'clock start, and one 8 o'clock start,
Hmm.
you can stagger them a little bit,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. And
better for their business.
it worked out really well having 4 games per night up until like games 5 and 6 for a few teams.
Mm-hmm.
The first week was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really was.
And that's the reason I brought up the LA thing, is because I believe the Clippers had playoff games, and that's why there was 3 days in between. I think it was game 5 and game 6, or game 4 and game 5, or something like that, of the LA and Edmonton series.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So getting back into the Colorado Seattle series. Sorry, I jumped in there with that
Oh no, it's all good.
that
That's a really good
scheduler.
point you made.
Um, yeah, you're right. I mean I watched it, but I didn't. You know what I mean? By that time, I was I was checking emails and looking at highlights from other games while it's still on. I just wasn't truly invested in it. Number
Yeah.
one, I just not a I don't follow Seattle at all. I don't care about them at all.
Yeah.
And Colorado didn't look good, and so they weren't really
They didn't.
worth watching. Like they certainly didn't look like they did last year. They weren't dominant in any way.
Yeah. And like I listened to one or two of the games because 960 was carrying some of the later games throughout the first round too of
Mm,
other teams. So I was listening to a little bit of them at work, but like when I first got to work, but that would have only been like the last half of the third period, right?
yeah,
So I don't have a whole bunch to comment on other than it's a surprise, but also like honestly good for Seattle. Like
yeah,
they played them hard, and they made Colorado have to fight back in the series, fight back in games that they won. Like there was not a single game that was just easy for Colorado,
that's right.
which I think surprises almost everybody except for the people who lied about their brackets.
Right. I honestly didn't have Seattle standing a chance in that series.
Well, you had Colorado in 6, and I had Colorado in 5. So,
Yeah. So I guess I did give them some credit for a couple of wins,
mm-hmm.
but
But still, like, and Grubauer too. Like, I
yeah,
thought Colorado would just have Grubauer's number because he's honestly not that good, and I guess he just knew those shooters.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. He knows. I mean, he knows the shooters. I mean, it's one of those series where I bet you Colorado sure wish they had a Grubauer again.
Or
Still,
yeah, or Kemper, or like
yeah,
honestly, Gorgiev or Georgiev, or with however you say it, he wasn't very good. I did see some highlights. I saw a couple periods, and he just kind of looked like Markstrom.
yeah. He was running around a bit, right? He didn't look settled.
Yeah. Move on to
Yes,
Dallas and Minnesota a little bit.
Dallas and Minnesota. I watched quite a bit of that series. A friend of mine slash coworker has been a Minnesota fan for a lot of years. So I mean he's lived through the first round exits for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got into watching Minnesota last year, I'll say maybe year before. So, and because it was Dallas, and after the series we had with them last year, I wanted to see how Ottinger was going to do, and just the rest of them really.
Mhm.
That was a fun series to watch. Like there was a lot of heavy, heavy, heavy hitting.
I
They
think
really
game
took it to
one
each
of
other.
that series was the best
Mhm.
game I watched all playoffs so far.
It was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were fast, right?
Fast, physical, heavy,
Yeah.
big, offensively potent, but the goalies both still played really well, except for Fleury, which probably lost Minnesota the series.
Again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I people sure are high on Flurry, and I just have never been one. He's
Well,
brilliant in the regular season.
there I've never had a problem with him, when he was in his prime or before that, or maybe even just a little bit after that. But
Mhm.
I mean, when you have Philip Gustafson, like this series, I think I have Gustafson on my fantasy team in our
Right.
league, and I think this series kind of solidified my thought that I was gonna make him a keeper.
Yeah.
Um, when you have that guy, there's no reason to go to Flurry. Like, what was it? Two overtime or three overtime? Two overtime.
Through overtime. Yeah.
Yeah, the game one was two overtimes, I think.
It was
And
into the third.
yeah, um, even though he lost with all of that time, I still think he earned the next game.
Agreed.
Um, but that again, that series was fun to watch, and you had Minnesota in seven, I had Dallas in seven, so
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. That was one of many of my failures during this selection period.
Oh, mine were no bueno. Mine were very bad.
Yeah.
Um, you had Vegas in five, or yeah, you had Vegas in five. I had Vegas in six. I think
Nailed
they won
it.
in five, right?
They did.
Yeah. So you nailed that one.
That's really we don't have to talk about the rest. I'm going to go out on a high note. Boom.
Woo! I'm just going down the list. That's how I wrote them down.
Damn it.
Um, but yeah, that was a really good series too. I thought the way Winnipeg went into the playoffs and the way that Vegas went into the playoffs, I thought that Vegas was slower than Winnipeg just rolling into the playoffs.
Mhm.
Um, and I really thought that they were going to make it a little bit harder on Vegas, but um, Mark Stone came back. I also thought he was going to be, you know, I didn't think he was going to be 100%, which I don't think he is, but I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. And
He was really effective
when you
for
have a degenerative back disease, generally
yeah.
coming back doesn't last too long. So we'll see what happens next series or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about that considering who they're playing. Um,
Right. Yeah, we need
but
them to be at their best.
I kind of think that was and not even just numbers wise, but like as far as how many games were played, but how the games were played, I feel like that was the most one-sided series. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
it didn't seem like there was any pushback uh for most of I'm going to use pushback for a couple of the other series, but um yeah, there was no pushback from Winnipeg after they won game 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly, really.
And we both had LA in 7, and that just didn't work out very well for anybody who's listening to this podcast, most likely.
Yeah, the fact that it ended in 6 is kind of disappointing. I mean, three of the 6 games went to overtime. So I mean, like they were clearly evenly matched, right?
I think
Is-
right up until the last game of the series, all of the games were pretty even, and even that one was, but I still feel like Edmonton kind of carried that game.
Right.
I thought that Korpisalo's numbers don't end up being very good, but I still think that he was the best king.
Yeah.
And if they don't extend him, I don't know if they have him extended or not, but if they don't extend him, I'd be shocked, because that's exactly what they need, a younger goalie to take over from Quick, and as good as he was for a portion of the season, I don't think he's the answer as much as Korpisalo is. And I thought
Yeah.
Korpisalo played really well.
I thought he played really well as well. And obviously in order to to beat the offense of the Oilers, you need solid goaltending and or a Michael Backlund, right?
Yeah.
And the Kings don't quite have Michael Backlund. They have a
Well, they
couple
have
of.
Kopitar, who's
I mean, he's pretty stellar
and
two-way player,
and
but
Deneau, both of who are,
you
I'd
know
say,
what? I mean, I don't watch that much LA.
yeah.
I really like Deneau.
I think
He's a
those
hell of a
two
player.
are two of the only guys in the league I would put ahead of Backlund on
Yeah.
that list of
Sure.
two-way centers.
Mhm.
Two of maybe the only, I don't know, five guys I'd put ahead of Backlund on two-way center lists is Deneau and Kopitar.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job the first two games.
Yeah.
A
I
little bit
mean,
of a good job the third and fourth game, but then it kind of fell off once
it,
McDavid had those two. What was it, in like a minute and a half or something like that? He had
yeah,
two
those
power
power
play
play.
goals,
Yeah. From the same spot.
the exact same spot, but he didn't shoot in the same spot.
Yeah,
I
he
noticed.
went both sides,
Yeah,
right? Went
yeah,
glove and then blocker.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that was once McDavid finally got on the score sheet, um, he became a factor, right? He really
Because he
wasn't that
wasn't a
much of a
factor.
factor. I don't think so. For I guess was that game two though, wasn't it that he did the two power play
I
goals?
think that was game three. I could be wrong though. I'd have to look back at it, but because they kept him off of the score sheet goal wise for the most part.
Yeah,
You're looking it up, or
I am.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Um,
was game three.
yeah, but yeah, no, I thought honestly that series played out really well, and I did think that Edmonton took over, and as much as I hate that, I mean they deserved it because they fucking played better,
Mhm.
and even Kane and Hyman and Ekholm and all of them, they outplayed LA altogether. I think.
Yeah,
I honestly think, even though his numbers aren't very good, I think not Copley, Corpusalo outplayed Skinner,
for
but
sure. For sure he did. Yeah, I agree.
but he was also faced with much harder shooters to make saves against.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little bit more high flying coming one direction opposed to the other.
yeah. All right, well, let's go with the next one here, which is the Boston and Florida series. A lot of people saying this is the biggest upset in the NHL for the last 20 years or something like that. And I'm not sure if I really agree with that. I don't think game 7 overtime, just the fact that it made it to game 7 overtime, I don't think that can be that much of an upset. I understand
No.
that best regular season team of all time, 8 seed. I get that, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah,
game
when you
7 overtime. That
when
that's not
when you look at the product on the ice, obviously through 7 games, I mean it was a lot more even um than really it should have been given the regular season numbers for both teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the All-Star break, Florida was way out of
Yeah.
playoff contention, right? So got to give them credit. They came on at the right time, clearly, to even make the playoffs, make that wild card 2 spot.
Who
And
thought
then,
Maurice was the guy to get Montour and
mm,
all these players to actually be good?
yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he just yells very well. He's very good at being vocal.
Yeah.
Some people respond to it,
Others don't.
others don't. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. Um, honestly, like,
Did I say Boston was going to sweep this one? I think I did.
you did. You said sweep, and I said 5 games. Um, the biggest thing that surprises me is that a team that's had like 15 years of Brad Marchand let Matthew Tkachuk take the series over. They let Matthew Tkachuk get in their heads. I mean, I don't think Allmark is as good as he. I don't think he'll ever be as good as he was this year. I don't think he ever was as good as he was this year.
Yep.
But you know, we talked about this the other day, and you showed me his numbers, and like, yeah, he's better than I thought he was, but I still don't think he's anywhere near what he showed this year in the regular season, and I think this playoff showed it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a career year, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a reason they call it that, right?
yeah, yeah. As long as teams like say Calgary, where they tend to pay free agents for a year opposed to a career, and it's
Mm-hmm.
super frustrating.
Or not pay Johnny Gaudreau for his career and try and pay him for a year.
Yeah, too little, too late, right?
Yeah. Um. Anyways, yeah, that's my thought on the Boston series. Like, obviously, it's a surprise. I don't think it's as much of an upset as a lot of people are saying,
Mhm.
and mostly, I can't believe that a team that's been dealing with Brad Marchand on their team for that long let uh, a player who plays just like that. Um, you know,
Well, I mean, I think it
run the
might
series.
come down to the fact that you have a team that has been dishing it out. They just didn't know what to do when it came back at them.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, he got in so many heads, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. He's my favorite player in the league. I don't want them winning the cup because I'm not ready for that. But
No,
in the next few years, if they do, I won't be overly upset about it.
exactly.
Um, shall we move on to Tampa, Toronto?
Tampa, Toronto.
Wow, you actually got this one dead on.
I did, didn't I? Toronto in
Yeah,
6.
Toronto in 6. I had Tampa in 7.
So I had 2 that were dead on, plus our bet, which is coming at the end of
Yeah, that wasn't dead on, but it was
no,
close. It was close enough for you to win the bet.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you moved on from that quick. Um,
well, we're gonna talk about it in a couple minutes.
yeah,
But yeah, Toronto, Tampa. I don't honestly think Toronto deserved to win that, and I'm not saying that because I don't like Toronto. I'm saying that because I thought Tampa outplayed them more often than not.
mhm,
I thought
mhm.
they got very lucky, and I thought Andrei Vasilevsky was the worst he's ever been in a playoff series that I can remember.
Yeah, he wasn't good, and you think got to think that 3 of the wins that Toronto had were in overtime.
Yeah,
So I mean, they didn't. They certainly didn't control the pace any. I mean, they did game one, or I mean, sorry, game two. The game, yeah, game two was 7-2.
Yeah,
They controlled, at least they controlled the scoring. Yeah, you're right. The goaltending was a big letdown for Tampa there.
it
Uh,
was.
and they're not
And
used to that.
no, they're not. And I think that Vasilevsky has to take most of that, even without Hedman for a couple games and Cernak for, I think, the entire series minus a period or something like that.
Right.
Didn't he get knocked out in game one, or was he out before game one?
I feel like it was game one.
Yeah. And that's like, two of their top three defensemen. So
Yeah, that hurts, right?
it hurts. I thought that Toronto, took advantage.
Yep.
Not much
Yep.
to say about it. It's unfortunate,
No.
but is what it is.
Yeah, I can't believe Toronto won the cup. At least that's what it seemed like on social media. Holy shit.
It really, I mean, is anybody surprised that
No.
that's how Toronto fans?
No. No, because I mean you had the Oilers and Toronto win in the same night. And it was just like, okay, I gotta get off social media. I can't take this anymore.
Oh, it was brutal. That was one of the worst nights I can remember. And like, I had one of my buddies who's a Toronto fan, like, oh well, Calgary did that last year when they beat Dallas. Everyone celebrated like it was the cup. I was like, no, everybody let out a collective sigh of relief
Right?
and sat in the fetal position on their
Yeah.
couch crying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like
That was I mean, I'll never forget that night when Johnny scored from fucking behind the net.
right? Me
That
neither.
shot.
Like
Like
nobody knew it was in for a couple seconds,
mm,
and then like my girlfriend made fun of me because I was in the fetal position. Like I thought it was I thought that's what was going to get both of those guys to resign, but here I am being wrong somewhere.
yeah.
But
But we all know the
yeah,
reason. We all know the reason.
um, I'd say a solid 70% of the reason. We'll get into that in the second segment. Um, so I had Islanders in seven. You had Carolina in seven. I'm surprised, especially after Teravainen and I can't even remember what the other dude's name is right now. Got hurt. Um,
Oh,
anyways,
yeah, yeah.
basically their top three left wingers got hurt.
Yeah.
Uh, Pacioretty, I mean, he only played like 5 games or whatever all season, so he doesn't really count. But their top two left wingers got hurt.
Yeah.
Svechnikov and the other guy.
I mean, I really didn't give the Islanders much credit. The games were a lot better than I anticipated.
See, I thought that was the most boring season or a series. And
I mean,
I watched it because I was in emotion, like not emotionally, I was financially invested.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, there was what four 1-goal games. So I mean, like it was a good series that way. Um, then they each had their own little easy game, so to speak, as far as point production. But it wasn't a game that I watched or a series I watched a ton of. But from what I watched, it was a good series. Um, I I honestly thought it should have gone seven, but at the end of the day, Carolina just ended up being too much to handle for them in that last overtime.
Yeah. I This really bugged me. And like I've known it for a couple of years, and I'm sure you have too, but the way the Islanders play drives me fucking nuts because it reminds me so much of how we play.
Right.
Fucking not even looking when you dump the puck. Not even seeing if your guys are forechecking, just dumping it
Just
when
dump
it's
it.
not a line change.
Right. Yeah.
Basically just giveaways, perimeter shots. It bugged me because it reminded me of how bad our season was.
Well, basically, you just got to watch what it would have been like if the Flames were in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, who would we have faced? Vegas. So yeah, probably they would have probably destroyed us. Not sure if they would have destroyed us as bad as they destroyed Winnipeg, but they probably
Yeah,
would have
I was gonna say, I think we would have at least taken it to 6 or 7 games, personally.
put up a fight, a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't have rolled over, especially after getting that win in Vegas for the first time ever. You know, a couple of weeks with the season left over there, right? I mean
Yeah.
that's huge for the psyche of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it would have translated into wins and playoffs, who knows? Who
Right.
knows?
Well, let's move on to the most unfortunate one of the entire. I can't even say that because I hate Toronto and
Right?
Edmonton so much.
I was going to say
Um,
this is the most important. I mean,
I'd
because
I'd
of the bet,
rather
I get
I'd
it.
rather lose this bet than have to watch more fucking Edmonton and Toronto games.
True. But instead, you get all three.
All three, and that's what surprises me the most about how much I enjoyed this first round. Like the hockey was so good
Yeah.
that even though all my predictions were all wrong, not all of them, but most of them were wrong, and I have to deal with Edmonton fans and I have to deal with fucking Toronto fans and I have to drink a beer out of a boot in the coming episodes here. Um that's
I
gonna
mean,
suck.
you get to pick the beer. I mean, I wasn't rude and named it.
Well, at least you would have got to drink it out of a can.
Fair. Yeah. But I mean, Budweiser tastes like you're drinking it out of a boot, anyways. So what's the difference?
Well,
Yeah.
aluminum instead of whatever
Yeah.
people are.
Literal boot. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
You're right.
Uh,
My wife brought something up, and she wanted me to make sure that you're aware. So when you're doing this, we're gonna have to see this with the camera where you're pouring it in the boot. Because I
oh yeah.
I feel like if we don't do that, you're gonna have a can sitting in your boot,
Oh, you know what's funny is that's actually really smart, but I didn't even think of that because I'm a fucking idiot.
right? Well, see, she gave you too much credit.
Yeah. So there you go. No, I'm just trying to figure out which boot I'm gonna do it out of. I'm thinking my snowboard boot. I don't know. We'll
I
figure it
mean,
out.
I'll send you my work boot. I could probably go get a new pair anyways.
No, no.
My
My
skate.
my work boot is if I wanted something disgusting, the most disgusting thing I could possibly have, I'd use my work boot.
Sure. It's true.
Um, I gotta walk through some pretty fucking gross shit while I'm working. So
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you work at a hog farm.
it's funny because a lot of it's literally called hog. But
Yep.
anyways, um,
So in round one, I believe we had 14 overtimes.
yeah, that's really good. Let's talk about this series though, because
Yeah,
obviously
okay.
we had made the bet that New York. I bet New York was going to win in 7, and you said Jersey in 6. Um, but I can't believe how New York just rolled over. And again, I'm not just saying this because I lost the bet. I'm saying this
Mhm.
because, especially after they won Game 6, that last game was
Pathetic, right? But it was, I mean, it was just as bad as game five, right?
what I want to say they had 3 or 4 power plays in the first fucking period, and they had one shot, and the fucking refs handed them so many fucking opportunities to win that game and didn't
Well,
call other shit that would have put them on the PK. Like
yep.
they just and all they did was hand New Jersey fucking odd man rushes over and over and over. It
Yep.
was really tough to watch as a person who was going for New York.
Well, I agree. I was playing baseball last night, so I didn't get to actually watch most of it. I
Yeah.
did catch probably a good 30 minutes on my phone. Um, and yeah, it was pretty tilted one way as far as actual, high danger chances from what I
Yeah.
saw. Like it wasn't even close, which is a
Like
far cry from what we saw in games 1 and 2. Like after
well, they
games one
obviously
and two, I was just like, holy shit, yeah, Jersey doesn't stand a chance. I thought they were going to be out in 4.
yeah, I was thinking that after game two, I figured my 7 game prediction was going to be drastically wrong, but
Yeah.
turns out they found out what New York's kryptonite is, and
Hmm. Yeah, I mean
turned that off.
after game 3 when Jersey won in OT, I think, I mean that changed the series
I
drastically.
mean, Schmid changed the series. Like Schmid played honestly very well,
Hmm.
and I know that he's obviously not the only reason because New Jersey did flip the switch, but I think that I do think that this series basically solidified what I've been thinking for a while because again in our pool I've picked up Schmid 2 or 3 times this year and then once last year, uh, and he's done great for me. And I think this series solidified for Jersey that they could probably move Vanacek and be fine with Schmid, or
Right.
even just use more of a 1A 1B, move Blackwood
Yeah.
type of thing. And I don't know, I think Schmid made a name for himself for sure in the series.
Well, I mean, and that happens a lot, right? You look at some of the guys in the past, and then it's kind of like a coin flip, though, right? Whether they fizzle out after that or if they continue, right?
I mean, you look at Matt Murray,
You look at Matt Murray.
right?
And
He
you look at
literally
Ottinger.
won 2 cups and sucked. Well, Ottinger's still good, but he's still
I mean,
fresh in his career. So,
that's right. But I mean, he was a big difference maker in that Wild series.
oh, 100%.
I mean, but yeah, you're right. Like you look at Murray. I mean, he stole the job from you know from
Flurry.
Flurry, and then just I just
He's been
drastically just
he's
downhill
been the
since.
worst NHL level goaltender for years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. Like in my opinion. And then Bennington, like he
Yeah, he's another, right?
he didn't even steal the cup or sorry, steal the job. There were injuries, I think, and then he came in and took a team who was fucking last place in the beginning of February and won the cup with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's been like the most average piece of shit on planet Earth.
I I think he might have anger issues.
Just a little bit. So
Fucking
don't
hell.
say that. He might throw
Might
his
come after me.
stick at you from
Good. Well, as long as he signs it, he can throw it at me. I don't care.
yeah. Anyways, that's where we are with the playoffs. We should take a little break and talk about DraftKings, talk about some sports betting, which I will not be doing anytime soon.
Light the lamp during the hockey playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can make a $5 bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. After an incredible first round of the playoffs, round number 2 is just getting started. So make sure you check out the app for the lines and the odds. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with code THPN. New customers can make a $5 hockey playoff bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right. Well, the other day we got a surprise, a little bit of a surprise news conference from Don Maloney and um, a bunch of political figures and all of those types of people about a brand new arena that the Flames have tentatively agreed on building.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not. I mean, I know that it's like a 95 or something like that percent chance that it's going to happen. Chris is pretty sold that it's going down, but just because of what happened last time, and the fact that I'm not very tuned into Calgary politics or Alberta politics, considering I live in BC. I am not going to believe it until there's shovels in the ground. So
Right.
for this topic, I will let Chris go on a rant.
Well, I mean, I've been in this city the whole time. Calgary has been blessing us with their with their presence. I,
Mediocrity is the word you're looking for.
yeah, I mean, I went through the lean years of the '90s and early 2000, um, which ended up being okay because I mean you could pick up a ticket, to go watch a game at the Dome, pretty pretty inexpensively, we'll say, because they couldn't get people to go. That being said, the building's falling apart, and the way they constructed it, we simply can't continue to attract any talent, right? Can't get the concerts we want because the the roof literally will not hold and support the material that they need to produce the show. So it's a problem. It's a big problem. Um,
There's water damage in it too from floods, and
yeah, I
as
mean
much
that's
as they fixed a lot of it, like it's major band-aids more than anything else, right?
yeah, and obviously, people that come from a fancy new arena and they come to Calgary and they walk through the dome on the concourse and throughout, they don't like it because I mean, it's concrete, right? It's not flashy in any way. It's probably my favorite place to be. I fucking love it. Always have. That being said, they've broken a deal with the city. They finally had a unanimous vote from the city of Calgary, uh, which is pretty astonishing, really, to have that kind of support because it hasn't been like that since day one. Like from when King was announcing the Calgary West venue on the west side of Calgary, there has been pushback right from every step. Obviously, we had an election here in Calgary, picked up a new mayor, and then the deal that was really close fell through again. So that brings us to now. The one thing that Dylan kind of brought up, which is I don't think it's truly an actual factor. The province of Alberta is pledging that they're going to contribute $330 million. 300 of it will be for transportation improvement and and infrastructure, which is something that the provinces normally pay or contribute to anyways. So it's nothing really new there as far
Right.
as what they're doing. 30 of that 330 is actually going to fund 50% of the community rink that's going to be built in there. So that's something that Calgarians or people that visit from afar, they can utilize that facility, which would be fun.
Just for my information,
Mhm.
that is going to be not the professional ice. That's going to
That's right.
be probably upkept similarly, but it's going to be in a different place. It's not going to be where the Flames play. It might be where they practice, but it's not where they play.
Yeah, it'll be part of the facility,
Yeah,
but not the actual ice surface that the Flames play on. They're going to have a
right.
secondary community rink. So obviously it'll be closer to what Phoenix is playing out of right now.
Yeah. Well,
Something like that, right?
community college. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. It'll probably see probably half of that, I'll say, or less.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, so we got 330 coming from the province, we got 537 million coming from the city of Calgary, which is a big topic, right? I mean, there's I haven't quite decided where the fan base lies on this. You've got a lot of people saying the city shouldn't be paying for, you know, billionaires to make more money, and you got other people saying you got to spend money. It's going to attract, a a lot of talent, and it'll bring in a lot of revenue over the years
Yeah.
with different things that'll happen within the facility. So I mean, I'm on the you need to spend money to get it going, which is interesting because I've never really been that type. I have been to other arenas and they are fun and flashy and you know nice and clean and white and
Like
they look like cool places. They
yeah,
just to me don't have the character that a place like the Saddle Dome has.
yeah. See, like I've been to Edmonton's arena a couple times now, and it's to me, it's like it's nice, it's great, but it's not my type of place. And it's not
Right.
because it's an Oilers place, it's because it you walk in, there's fucking 17 casinos and a bunch of other things everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
so much to wrap your head around when you just want to go watch the fucking game.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's what's going to happen in Calgary, but that's probably really good for the city. I'm just a small town
Mhm.
person, so that type of thing doesn't
Doesn't appeal,
attract
right?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I'm I'm old enough that the nightclub scene isn't me, clearly.
yeah,
Um I much rather go sit somewhere where it's quiet. You can have a conversation with somebody and have a beer that way.
100%.
But that being said, when last time you're in town, we went to that Chicago game back in January. Um, I mean,
Miserable.
I mean, yeah, the game sucked ass. It was horrible.
Was
But I
the
mean,
best play Huberto made all year, though.
true.
Yeah,
Well, I think that
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 goal was
pass
beautiful.
over to Kadri for that tap in was pretty sweet too. But yeah, you're right. That was a
Yeah,
pretty good goal. Um,
best goal he scored all year.
fair,
Yeah.
fair. I'll give you that. But yeah, like so after the game, obviously, we walked out and walked over to the casino.
Mm-hmm. It's
Just
just good. I don't mind that.
just for because proximity. It's we didn't want to go too far before having another beverage because we were drowning our sorrows from the shit kicking that the Blackhawks had just given us.
Mm-hmm.
But
With your friend who's a Blackhawks fan who was sad because his team that's supposed to lose games won and his other team that's supposed to win games lost.
yeah,
So
yeah, the
he had a
game,
miserable night.
yeah. So basically, that night, the as my friend Chris put it, the Blackhawks fucked themselves out of Bedard, and the Flames fucked themselves out of a playoff spot, and quite literally, it came down to that.
It did. It did. If one or two more games, right?
That's right.
Anyways,
Yeah. So back to the
back to the
arena.
arena.
So I think I'm super excited. It's slated to go just north, effectively one block north of the Stampede grounds where the dome is now. Um, there's people that are in and around Calgary probably seen for many years. It's just a like a vacant lot, so to speak, but they utilize it for parking and whatnot. So that'll be switched, I suppose, over to where the dome is now for parking, and they'll take over that 4 block radius and have us a real fun event center. It's gonna be interesting. Obviously, the shovels haven't hit the ground. They haven't done the final signatures on the deal.
Yeah.
So we're awaiting that. So hopefully, between now and the next probably I'd say maybe a month to two at most, we'll hear the final on that and either celebrate or do another WTF and back to the
And
drawing board.
farewell.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm expecting it to go through. Like
Yeah,
I feel like from the press conference, I feel like everybody involved understands what the importance of it is. I
yeah.
know that people in the rest of Alberta are upset that their tax dollars are going to Calgary, like, but I mean that's how taxes work. So, uh, and
Also, well, when it comes to that as well, if you think about the fact that while they were talking about, Daniel Smith was talking about the 330 coming towards us, they also talked about the second phase of Rogers in Edmonton, um, also being partially funded by the province as well. So it's not like, here
We're
Calgary's
getting
getting
something
this,
and
and
they're getting nothing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's good if you're going to do one for one, you have to do something for the other. It makes sense to me.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if it was a kind of save face type moment. Who knows? But we'll see.
Who knows? And honestly, like I think in the long run, bringing more bringing more attraction to the city
Mhm.
is going to help the province in the long run, financially,
For
and
sure. Yeah, I agree.
bring more tourism, even if it's only for a night here, a night there. It's not. I don't know. I think it's a good thing, and not just for hockey, but for everything else, for the community.
Well, that's right. And also, NHL, Gary Bettman, um, has already told the Flames ownership that, with it going through, and obviously if it truly happens, then all of a sudden we're in the circuit for the All-Star and the draft. So it's just more things, right? That to attract people to come to Calgary.
Hmm.
So
and
I mean,
and those type of things, like the All-Star Weekend, as much as I think it's
right.
a hoax and stupid and misrepresents everything that hockey stands for,
Massive money.
it's oh
Massive
what
amounts of
that could
money. It
bring
grows the
for the
game.
city of Calgary and for the province of Alberta is ridiculous. I'm
Yeah,
surprised it hasn't hit Edmonton yet, considering the new building and McDavid.
good point. Good
Yeah.
point. I think they're afraid that what'll end up happening, and it'll just be accident, like not the All-Star, but like if they brought the draft there, they would just
Yeah.
automatically, because they're so used to it, just give the first, second, and third picks to Edmonton
Yeah.
because they're there already.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Makes sense. Then they'd have to trade McDavid though, because they'd need that $15 million or whatever the fuck it is for
Mm.
one of the next three $15 million players they're gonna need. Anyways,
Yeah.
um,
Well, the cap's going up by 1 million, so that'll save everybody.
agreed.
Agreed.
Let's move on. Hopefully that happens. I think everybody agrees we need it, and I think that last thing I'll say is Calgary as a hockey team needs more reasons for free agents to come, and needs
Mhm.
more reasons for players to stay.
Yeah.
And I think that the arena is a big one. And you could tell by what Uyghur said in his exit interview, which was, you know, he started having a good time, but they need a new arena.
Yeah.
And
That
Batman
that
said they need a new arena. Like everybody involved,
that
they need
that
new arena.
tweet by, was it Haynes? I think it
Yeah,
was Darren, and it says, 11 days ago, Genza Uyghur says we need a new arena, and boom, it gets done. Kid makes shit happen.
Captain Material.
Yeah, it was really good.
Um, all right, let's move on to what most people want to hear about, probably, which is the
Oh yeah, the
news.
Flames promoted Daryl Sutter to GM.
Yeah, just like everybody thought was going to happen.
I
Um,
mean, I didn't have a good feeling, but you never know.
I didn't think it was going to happen because I don't. I think Sutter, as much as he made stupid coaching decisions this year, I think that he knows that he's a terrible GM.
Well, I mean, he
And
certainly has been told by enough people since.
yeah, and also I don't know if he enjoyed that very much.
It seemed pretty stressful. Like he didn't have a smile on his face very often.
I mean, he's always smiling, so if he didn't have a smile on his face, then obviously it was a horrible,
Right.
horrible experience for him.
Yeah, and he was, shit, 20 years younger almost.
Yeah, Yeah,
Isn't that terrifying?
actually, holy shit. Uh,
Jeez.
wow.
You're old.
Yeah. Um. So Sutter has been let go. Um. And if you want to say it's whiny crybabies getting their way, or whatever the fuck you want to say, I don't know. You and I haven't really talked about it that much yet, and you haven't been that active on social media, so I haven't really gotten too many of your opinions.
Yeah.
But
I just been watching cat videos and staying away from it.
yeah, you seem like a cat video person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's barbecue season, baby. Not on
Yeah.
social media. I'm outside grilling meat.
What so what are your thoughts? I mean,
I have it's funny. I actually have two trains of thought on the whole thing. I do fall under the way players and this generation of players are. They're very sensitive, and we're always talking about how to make sure that they're happy and they feel confident and that they're being praised enough, and all that stuff. And it irritates me to no end
yeah.
that players can go to the GM at the exit meeting after, quite honestly, playing like shit for most of the season,
Yeah.
and whine about it being somebody else's fault. So that honestly pisses me off that players do that, and it results in people being fired. That being said, I do understand how Daryl is, and I'm fully aware that we more than likely, I won't say definitely because I don't know this for sure, but I would think that it had some bearing on us losing two incredible players in the offseason last year.
I
Not
don't
saying it
think we'll
was,
ever know for sure
I don't think so either, but
unless
I'm sure it
Chuck
didn't help.
Chuck's the type of guy who will write a book later in his life.
He pretty much came out and said it as much when he was on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, right?
I I think that was the other podcast, but yeah, he basically he said he's not allowed to talk about it, but he like laughed, sighed, rolled his eyes, like
Well, and then yeah, I can't remember who was asked, are you going to send him a Christmas card? And he goes, no.
no,
I mean, there's ways you can go about it, and
say what you're trying to say without saying it. Yeah,
that's right. Right. Because obviously we know the NHL has their mandate on speaking to media and all
yeah.
that stuff. So
But
so he
let
he told
players
he
have
told the line.
personality, but if they do, then punish them
That's right.
and
Five thousand
chastise
dollar
them.
fine. Five
Yeah,
thousand dollar fine.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that being said, they also, what came out after that is the fact that there's a couple of players that had requested trades within the current roster that have rescinded their request since the firing.
Now the
So
only one person has said that. Were you listening today
was
to
that
that?
yeah, that was Frank that said that, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Frank Saravalli
Yeah.
said that the way I like I don't have the exact quote on me,
Mhm.
but I listened to it twice, and it what basically paraphrasing is he said that Daryl being fired has resulted in most, if not all, of the players who had asked for a trade rescinding their trade requests.
Mhm.
Um, Again, he
Yeah.
said he thinks, which there's a big difference between when Saravalli says he thinks and when he says he knows.
Right.
Um,
I mean, I would hope.
but he also when he thinks is 90% and when he knows is 100%. So
Yeah, he's a pretty decent, reliable insider, right?
I think he's like he's he seems like a very pompous. He wouldn't be the first insider I'd like to go have a beer with,
Right.
but he also is reliable. He's the most reliable guy out there right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, obviously he pays a premium.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's you get that sense though, right? I mean, everybody's heard the story about Backlund asking for a trade, and it just so happened to come, after Daryl came, which to me is surprising, being how Daryl actually drafted him.
I never
Um,
thought of it that way. That did happen just after Daryl came, hey?
yeah,
Fucking he plays really good under Daryl.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like Daryl produced 5 career seasons from players, right? In his time.
More. It's got to be because he produced
Yeah,
Kachuk, Gaudreau,
yeah. Lindholm,
Lindholm,
Foley,
Goodbranson, Zadorov,
yeah,
um,
Foley, um,
Toffoli,
Backlund,
Backlund, Shillington, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Markstrom,
right.
and
What a
like,
p, what a garbage coach.
yeah. So that's something. I don't think he's a garbage coach. I think that, and it goes back to something you said earlier. And I look at it a little bit different, but you are right. He people these days are young adults are have been raised to have a lot more self-respect than they used to.
Mm.
I find they're raised to not take as much shit as they used to take. Um, and I think that that's resulted in a lot of the older generation, which you are probably on the low end of.
Knock it off.
But kind of using the terms like, oh, these millionaire, crybabies are getting their way or whatever. But I think it's just people having self-respect and not being okay with being shit on. And this is the way I think about it is there's a difference between being a hard ass and being an ass. And I think Daryl was too busy being an ass specifically this year. And you can be a hard ass without being an ass. And he wasn't doing that.
I don't I kind of I disagree a little bit.
Go ahead.
I believe that Daryl wasn't asked to the media. I don't necessarily think that he was to the team. There were a couple of things that came out with his, with his dealings with a couple of the rookies and stuff that the team got all up in arms about,
Yeah,
which okay
is what it is.
is what
But
exactly is what it
that
is.
is who he is.
That's
And
right.
I think that with a lot of those, personally, I think a lot of those things were, he kind of had a misguided thought, let's say with the Peltier thing, that it
Mhm.
was gonna um distract the media and take the attention away from Peltier and put the attention on Daryl, which it did. But then
Sure
it
did.
also,
Well,
it
it put the attention on
resulted.
the whole team, right? Because
What's
then
that?
there's more. It put the attention on the whole team. Because then there's
Exactly.
more
That's what I mean
questions.
by
The
misguided.
reporters are coming in, and well, now I want to hear more. Tell me your side of the story and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Right? And that whole like, oh, you didn't even know what number he was.
Like, yeah, he did.
Like it was a that's what he does. He's been doing it for fucking
Yeah.
decades.
Media games, right?
Yeah.
It's what he plays media games, um and I don't have any proof if he was an ass inside the locker room or not, but I get the feeling like he was a little bit. Um that's just me though.
Yeah. So on the part where you're kind of describing the young adults of today, could you say, they won't take as much, they'll stand up for themselves and stuff. I actually find that to not be the case at all.
Really?
I find and like I manage 22 to 30-year-olds in my business. I I find that it's not really that they'll stand up for themselves. I find that they'll run to somebody else. They won't actually stand up for themselves. They'll have somebody else stand up for them.
Okay, so they'll find a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Where the generation previous, or even a couple, right, leading up to that, would actually stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. But they also come from a time, I'm talking about generations before, where they weren't being told on such a regular basis about how good they are, and pampered and kind of brought through a system of, of media and you know medals and celebrations and all that stuff, right? Like there was, it's a different era for that, right? Like these people are being bred at a very young age to be
To
professional
know they're
athletes, or
excellent.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so I anytime that somebody collides with that train of thought, it makes them uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And so they react in a way that not everybody likes. And it ends up, and things there's a trickle down effect that happens when that starts to take place.
Yeah.
Right?
And I I see what you're saying. I think we might, I don't know what age the people you manage are, but I think we might be talking about slightly different age groups. But still,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because the age group I'm talking about isn't even the Huberto Kadri age. It's
Right.
more the, which is my age, right?
Yeah,
My age group.
it's the 21 to 26 year olds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's when it really started to become noticeable. It's
mhm.
from that age. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a 24-year-old son,
Yeah.
and the difference between my son and my daughter, who's 10 years younger, like even then, like there's it's an interesting dynamic trying to figure out the psychology of youth, right? It
I don't envy you at
it's
all.
it's
And I've met
there's
your daughter. She's seems like a very nice
she's
young
an
lady.
incredible human being. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's a great person.
Yeah.
Um, and thankfully she's been good so far. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows? That might change someday. Um, but it's no, it's an interesting way to, I actually learned a lot of patience from having children. And so I can appreciate both sides of the story, and I can deal with a younger generation with a, a mixture, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
Like I can go both ways, but I find bringing those people into a common ground, it's definitely a different process than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's like night and day different.
Mhm.
Let's face it, with coffee starting at $5 and our bank account somehow always depleting, we are officially entering a dupe session. Most products do the same thing but are priced differently solely based on the brand name. So a good duplicate or dupe is crucial for getting the highest quality at the best price. One dupe you definitely shouldn't sleep on: Raycon wireless earbuds. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can listen to what you want, when you want, without breaking the bank. Raycon's mission is to prove that you shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg for quality sound and essential smart tech listening features. You can get a pair and a spare and still pay less than you would with some of those other, more big name tech brands out there. Raycon knows that in this economy, every purchase needs to be perfect. They offer buy now, pay later options. Right now, you can pay as low as $18 at checkout. They have an easy and free return guarantee. They offer 2 years of product protection insurance for just a few bucks. They offer free domestic shipping and flat fee international shipping. And they have over 50,000 five-star reviews. With some great features such as earbud tap functions, noise isolation, and 8 hours of playtime. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today and get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. Buyraycon.com/THPN. It's interesting, I would imagine in the exit interviews that it wasn't just the early 20-year-olds. I would imagine that it came from a number of people because you could tell that there was a rift within the organization for majority of the year.
Yeah. And
sense it, you could see it.
I don't think that it was all of them either. Like obviously Toffoli, Zadorov, blah, 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 blah. I think there was probably 5-6 guys in, as far as the players are concerned.
Yep.
There's probably 5 or 6 guys who were like, "Oh, I love playing for Sutter."
Well, that's right, and so you have a certain era in Toffoli, and then you have somebody like Zadorov who comes, from a country
that's hard.
That's right, and so I don't know if it necessarily helps their mindset, but they feel more comfortable within it. They understand that they understand Daryl's approach and they understand his credentials, and he's just demanding results, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's something that gets lost in it, is that Daryl, even though he made some pretty fucked up decisions this year, which I think people on both sides of the ledger, whether you're pro Daryl or anti Daryl, I think both sides can kind of agree that he's made some pretty fucked up choices this year.
Yeah, on and on, mostly on ice, right? Some of the choices he made for line pairings and when to put people out. It was a mind, head scratcher.
Forcing chemistry that wasn't there.
All that like that was such a Glenn Gullickson thing to do.
100%.
Daryl's better than that.
I feel like that. Yeah, exactly. That's what was so confusing about it to me, is that I know he's better than that.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't, it's hard to explain. Like if he didn't do even 2 or 3 of those dozen things that he did terribly, he'd still be here.
Well, and Calgary would have been playing in the postseason.
100%. And right. If Calgary was still playing in the postseason, Tree Living may have signed a, like we might be in a whole different situation. I don't think, I'm not the type of guy who wants Tree Living to be here. I don't want Sutter still. I think it's time for a rollover in both of those areas. But and I'm not saying like he could have saved, like he should have saved his job. I'm saying that we'd all be sitting here. I'd be sitting here happier if we were still playing right now, or if we were still playing 2 days ago.
Yeah, even if we had lost, right?
Yeah,
in the first round, right? It's those little things, the things that you and I have been talking about for half the season almost. Of why is Huberdeau still playing with Kadri?
And why is he playing on Kadri's right wing?
Right. Like there's things that just
why is Pelche sitting?
It almost became
more than
coaching. That's right. While other players deserve to be sitting like that, and he knew that. I feel like the last month, especially, was coaching out of spite.
Yeah,
I truly believe that the rift between Brad and Daryl ended up becoming very severe.
Mm-hmm.
And Daryl just went, I'll fucking show you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Richie, that's what happened with Richie with the shootout thing.
Right.
Yeah. And he can say, oh, he scored on Saros earlier in the season.
One time last year. Yeah.
Yeah. How many other guys on that fucking roster have scored on Saros before? It's not, that wasn't it. It was, again, for the fucking 100th time that season, he did something that was at the detriment of the team to prove a point that no longer needed to be proven.
That's right. We knew he was in charge. He didn't have to prove he was in charge.
Exactly. And he's not in charge anymore.
That's
Thank
right.
fuck.
Now he's not in charge. Yeah.
So I've got a question for you. And maybe we should wrap it up after this, unless there's something else you want to talk about. But my question is, does the firing of Sutter, it seems like it came from Maloney and Maloney's meetings with the players and apparently the training staff and the medical staff and everybody. Apparently that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
But it seems like it came from him.
I feel
not from Murray Edwards and John Bean. I don't think John Bean has much to do with it, but
well, you shouldn't.
From Murray Edwards, which is where the hiring of Daryl came from.
Right.
So, do you think that this is a sign that Edwards has realized that the business he owned or the business he owns should be run by the people he hires to run it and not by him? Not fully, but more. That he's going to micromanage less.
So I'll answer that in two ways.
Yeah.
Number one, it was reported way more so than it ever has been in the last couple of months about how that exact scenario where Edwards and the ownership core sticking their nose into hockey operation stuff and how much it has affected the team for a long time,
decades. Yeah.
Right. So I think with those reports, there has to be, I mean, Edwards is an intelligent human being, right? He knows.
100%.
So when you keep hearing this and it's coming from different layers of different media outlets and whatnot, at some point, one of those stories that he's reading or watching it has to click, right? But also with that, you and I talked about, and I believe it was with our last show when we were talking about Brad and a potential replacement. And as long as you bring a valid argument / case to the owners, if that is still the case, that the owners are making the ultimate decisions, as long as you bring a valid case to them, they will listen to it. So if you can bring notes from exit interviews from staff, right down to players,
15 players and 20 staff members.
Yeah, like that's a problem.
That's not the number, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's a problem. And anybody with half a brain would go, okay, well, yeah, it sucks that it's now going to cost me, $8.4 million, but I need to do something like fucking now. So, I mean, I think it could have been a mixture of both. I don't know if it's going to spell change in the future. We will see. But given
we will hope.
That's right. And given the tactics that I've seen from Don so far, I'm liking it.
I like what he's done. I haven't liked so much his public speaking, but
he's not great at it, right?
No, but
you can tell.
That's okay.
I mean, he knows the game and he knows how to get results thus far, right?
Public speaking means very little at this juncture, and that's why he's going to hire a GM, because that person's going to do it.
That's right. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, effectively, he hasn't actually done anything other than fire Daryl Sutter.
Sign Walker Dewar.
Good point.
Which,
right? I mean, there's a Daryl Sutter won't let the young guys play.
Well, Walker Dewar's 26, but yeah.
I don't give a
or
shit.
25.
25. But yeah.
Yeah.
But Walker Dewar plays Sutter hockey.
Walker Dewar.
And therefore had a stellar year. Yeah, so that's how I
And
answer that. I
I
hope that
don't
it spells change for the future, but I don't know if I'm there, if I'm believing that yet.
I don't think that any owner of any business should ever not have their nose in it to some point.
Right, but
But
that's how the umbrella works, right? That's how your different divisions and your branches, right? This person talks to this person, reports to this until he gets to the top, right?
yes, he should sign off on things. Yes, he should question things.
He
That's
he should
fine.
he should
But
sign
he
off
needs
on
to
where
let the
his
guys
money's
do their
going.
job first.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
then he needs to trust them to a certain point. And I don't think there's been any trust with, thank God, Feaster. And I don't think there's been any trust with Burke, which there probably should have been because that's a guy with a lot of fucking pedigree. And I don't think there was very much with. I mean, there was tons with Daryl when he was the GM, but I
Well,
don't
that's
think there was more with Brad, but there wasn't enough. There needs to be more of a I hired you to do this job, I'm going to let you do it thing.
yeah.
But
Report back and tell
still,
me how you are doing at your job, and we'll assess it. Right.
yeah,
That's
yes, he should have his nose in it, but he should also let the like if you're going to hire somebody to do a job and not let them do it and then wonder why they walk away after 9 years, like you
right.
can rewind to our last episode and see how much both of us are happy that Brad's gone, but like he wasn't really allowed to do his job most of the time.
No, he was handcuffed with a lot of things, and
Yeah.
everybody knows it. Well,
Yeah.
can't say everybody, right? A lot of people will still blame Brad for not trading for this guy and stuff. I blame him for some of
Lack of
uh,
foresight.
his lack of foresight, and I blame him for how many no move and no trade clauses there are on our roster currently. That angers me a lot.
Yeah,
Like whoever takes over that role has got one fuck of a job to do because they're
absolutely.
they're already over the cap
Mm-hmm.
for next year, and we still need 4 players.
And we've got a whole summer to talk about that because I'm sure most of them aren't leaving. Most of them, maybe one or two, but
Sure.
um,
Okay. Well, I feel like that's a good place to end it.
yeah.
So one before we sign off though, who do you think ends up who do you think will be the head coach for the Flames next year?
Who do I think or who do I want?
Both.
I don't know why I asked that because I don't know. Um, I think Huska or Love. I want them to both be on the bench under Brunette or somebody like that, or some level of those three on the bench together. Um, I think it's time for Huska. I think it's time for Love. Um, and I think I don't want to bring Brunette in simply because he worked so well with two of our players in the past.
Right.
But I want what's that?
I said right. Yeah.
That there's a part of that works as well. But I also think that what he brings is something the Flames need, which is a little bit more dynamic offense. And I don't mean just from Huberto, I mean from the team.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and did you ask me GM as well?
No, just coach.
No. Okay. That's
Just coach.
um I think I don't think Brunette's gonna come. I'd like to see him in there somewhere, but I think it's probably gonna be Lover Huska.
Okay.
Just because money, because they're already here, and because
I I
ownership is comfortable.
yeah, I agree with that. I think given the fact that with our current cap situation, there's likely going to be at least 2 more players that were playing for the Wranglers on the Flames roster next year. And I think that being said, your two choices are perfect. But yeah, my want and who I think are the same person. That's Mitch Love. I want him. I want
You
him in
want
that
and
role.
think Mitch Love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want him in that role. I think
I,
he's
I
done really
want
well.
him
And
in the NHL in Calgary
yeah,
in some capacity on the bench.
100%. And
I don't
then
care if it's assistant. I don't care if it's
and I
fucking
and I
head.
think having Huska run the special teams, like let's do it. Like let's bring two fresh people to the to the NHL and roll with it.
And somebody who knows, who doesn't have to think about how to use the guys who are going to be eventually brought up,
Yeah, you'll know
or
already.
don't doesn't have to research what these guys are, because Huska coached them 2 years ago, and because Love coached them currently,
Mhm.
as in 2 days he's going to coach these guys in a game,
That's right.
right?
Yeah,
And again, not because that's not the only reason. I also think Love in a couple years is going to be one of the best head coaches in the
I think
league.
I think he's a great hockey
I don't
mind.
think. Go ahead.
I think he's a great hockey mind, and I think Calgary would be doing themselves a disservice if it comes down to a point where he ends up walking away or getting a really good offer from an NHL team.
I think if he's not offered at least an assistant or a special teams job in the NHL next year, he's gone.
Yeah.
And I think Huska, if he's not, if he's, I think they're kind of tied. I think if
Mhm.
either of them go, both of them go, because I think Huska was a finalist for, I can't remember. He was a finalist for Montreal, maybe. I can't remember. He
Was
was
he
a finalist for one of the head coaching jobs last year, and he chose to stay in Calgary.
really?
Yeah, I
I'll have
don't think it
to
was Montreal. I can't remember which team it was, but
I'll have to look for that article. That's interesting.
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. He is a hell of a coach.
I can't remember.
I'll look
But
for that.
he, I've heard the 960 guys talk about it all quite a few times, um, which doesn't always mean it's correct, but
No, but I mean they're close to it.
mhm.
Yeah, they're close to it.
And I also think those two guys are young in the realm of coaching, which I think is a benefit to just bringing a fresh look into the organization at the NHL level. Like
Yeah,
they need somebody who's got fresh ideas, because the old ideas are tiresome. And I mean, there's a lot of people who are just so sick of all of the old shit that they're not even going to watch next year, apparently.
sure.
Yeah.
You mean those people that don't watch the first three quarters of the season, anyways? Those people?
Yeah. Or the season. Oh my God.
I heard
Topic for another day. But,
they're
or the
almost making
people,
playoffs. Better
yeah,
start
or the
watching.
people who figure, oh, Edmonton's an Alberta team, so I'm going to cheer for them. No, 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 no. That's not how this works.
It's another one.
That's not how this works. And don't fucking clip that.
You know goddamn well that's going in the shorts. Could you imagine an English soccer team cheering for, like, somebody from Man U cheering for Chelsea just because they made it further? Holy Christ. Like, come on.
Chastised. I don't know. I know that soccer fans, football fans are very passionate. I don't know what that specific rivalry is, right? But if you're is like, but if you're bringing it up in this,
Yeah, I
then,
mean
then I believe you.
they're two different uh leagues, but I mean, like, they're not You just don't do it, right? You
Mhm.
fly one flag, period. You can hope other teams beat others. I get that, but to full on cheer for the fucking Oilers, come on. Sorry.
Yeah. Like,
Pick a side.
I have, and you know what? I get like there's a lot of casual fans out there that cheer for a team here or there or whatever. But personally, I'm just the type of guy who I find a lot of joy in cheering against teams
Yeah.
after the Flames have been eliminated.
Well, the
Um,
I mean, I went from being a Kings fan to a Knights fan. That I mean, and I've never cheered for either team
yeah,
ever.
and I never
I mean,
will again.
I hate Vegas. I
Yeah,
mean, I love the city. I have a lot of fun there, but their
I
hockey
actually
team
really,
can
I,
fuck
I
right
really
off.
appreciate the organization, but um, on the ice, I'm not a huge fan.
That's right.
Yeah,
So that being said,
cheers.
go Vegas. Go Flames.
Not even go Vegas, just fuck Edmonton,
Fuck Edmonton.
and not even go Panthers, who by the way won their game today.
They did.
So they're up 1-0 on the Leafs.
They're not going away.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going away.
Kachuk didn't even run that game either. But
I mean, he ran Geo. Heyo.
yeah, I saw that.
Some brotherly
Anyways,
love.
cheers, everybody. Make sure you go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that kind of stuff. Check out the Hockey Podcast Network as well on all those platforms. Give us a like and subscribe. Let us know what you think about Daryl Sutter and his firing, and who you think might be the new coach and slash or GM of the Calgary Flames.
Love it. All right, everybody. Till next time. Enjoy round two. We'll try and get
Fuck
back to you
Edmonton.
before that ends. Have a good night.
Cheers.